to a very special Wine Talk Wednesday here at Barzy Winery. You all know Monty and I, but we have the super special pleasure of getting to sit with our esteemed guest, Clark Smith, today. Clark is a man of many talents. He's a renowned author. He's an inventor of amazing wine technology. He's a winemaker. What he does for us is he consults on our wines.
A wine industry changer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are very, very lucky to have wrangled him into chatting with us today about Texas wines and our wines and all of that. So, Clark Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thanks a lot. I love coming to Texas. I put the whole thing into a bigger context, maybe. I'm the editor for Appalachian America, so I've been studying the wines all over America for really all my adult life. So when I got in the industry in 1972, there were 250 wineries in the United States, and they were all on the shelf. So it was kind of like the music industry where, you know, you'd turn on that AM dial at that point and you'd get Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra and the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Paul and Paula and, you know, Jan and Dean and the Beach Boys and all, like 40 different genres, and it was all there. And all the wine in the United States was in the shop that I was working in. We were like the Library of Congress for wine. We had about 1,000 domestic wines. That's all there was. Well, today, there's 25,000 wineries. And 64 of them, all that wine that's on the shelf is million case wineries. There's 64 wineries, most of them in California, that are doing that. But you know what? If you take them out, you have 25,000 wineries that are about 2,000 cases apiece, which is what you guys are.
Yeah.
And these are people, I mean, we're all nuts. Pretty smart people, generally speaking, except that we all decided to just kind of pee our lives away in the service to this, to making this stuff, which is, you know, it's a little bit like being a jazz musician. You don't ever be a jazz musician unless you have to. And so there are all these people that are obsessed with really, I think, a human connection to people through wine. So Texas, I think, is really unique. Partly it hasn't tried to be California. There are Portuguese varieties and Spanish varieties that grow much better here than they do in California, and so you got your Tempranillo, some Italian varieties like Sangiovese that do very well here, and there's really just a different mix. Now, it's almost all sold in Texas, but the truth is that we can do very, very well here, and that's starting to catch on. It wasn't very long ago that we felt the same way about California. And then there was New York State, you know. We go, God, I can't grow grapes in New York, but now we recognize that as some of the best Rieslings in the world. So I want to pour your Mourvedre because I'm going to tell you a funny story. I wrote this book called Postmodern Winemaking, and then we started doing these postmodern winemaking symposiums where we get a lot of winemakers together and just have a fist fight, sort of. Not necessarily trying to agree, but comparing our stories. And so I had I was moderating one of these things. I guess I don't remember when it was. Just 3-4 years ago, I guess, down in. And so we had this panel of 9, it was like 3 winemakers, 2 growers, a banker, all walks of the industry, and we got all these different grapes. And so I decided, like I say, I'd like to get a fist fight going. And so I put it out there. I said, all right, you should probably never try to sell Texas wine anywhere but Texas. But let's suppose you did. If you were going to do that, what New Zealand did was they said, let's just tell everybody we just make Sauvignon Blanc. The same thing. They said, we're just going to take this one grape Malbec that nobody else does very well, and we're going to put it out there and just be known for that for a while. So I asked the question, I said, what is the signature Texas grape? And I really thought this was going to take, you know, like 3 hours and a little bit of spilled blood.
Yeah.
all 9 of them said the same thing. And I completely agreed with them. And they all said more vigor. So that was kind of disappointing to me, but they started talking about it, and part of the reason is that in France,
Because you wanted to argue with them.
I did. I'm from New Jersey, you know.
So
I like a
disappointed.
good fist fight. But so anyway, one of the things about Mourvedre is that it grows well here and it withstands the humidity, and it's just, you know, you can reliably get 4 tons to the acre, and so that's great. Mourvedre is actually known in France, and I must pronounce this in Cahors, that's where they grow it, and it's called Côte. Because Mourvedre in France is very coarse, but Texas Mourvedre, and this kind of applies to all of them, are very feminine, and they have these rose petals. You call them rose petals. In Texas, you get this completely different thing that's more like an aromatic, sort of like a Grenache or something, but more feminine. And then I tasted yours, and what you've got is, I think, I like all Texas Mourvedre, but this one has the best structure. So just a lot more ample and rich than most Texas Mourvedres I've seen, but very much of a piece in that floral, feminine kind of way.
Our Texas-grown Pinot Noir.
Yeah, but you know, here's the thing: in California, we have no limestone. There's only one piece of it, and it's called Mount Harlan, and it's a cone that it actually broke off 120 million years ago and floated through the magma and came up in Monterey County, and that's where Calera is. Now Calera, I mean, that doesn't exactly look like Burgundy out there, you know? I mean, it's desert, right? Well, Calera is desert too. It has absolutely nothing in common except that it's the closest thing in California that we have to a good Côte d'Or Burgundy. And you know, nobody, even in Texas, is crazy enough to try to grow Pinot Noir, except you guys. So here you have something that I think we could compare to Calera. That's having, it's got this stuff in the back when you swallow it. It's kind of like acidity, and we have a name for it, but we don't know what it is. We call it minerality, and it's just a sort of an energy. And then of course you have all this structure, just like a Côte d'Or. You know, I was stunned when I first saw this stuff. And you remember last year we took one out to Randall Graham, and he pretty much dropped his jaw.
He said, what was it? He said, delightfully amazing. I believe.
He loves reminding us of that.
Well, he should.
I agree.
You know, there you go, world-class Pinot Noir in Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah, and it, you know, didn't do bad at San Francisco this year. Texas grew.
What happened?
Kind of gold.
All right.
I love getting to put new hardware around the bottles. It's my favorite day. It's like accessorizing. It's like jewelry. And I love this.
Let's try to describe what we have here. You know, there's a real dense. I kind of think about, you know, red versus blue fruit, and this is kind of like on a line there, sort of plums, maybe even plums, cassis.
I always like to think. I mean, for me, and this sounds crazy, but it's Jolly Rancher.
The black cherry Jolly Rancher.
It's always black cherry Jolly Rancher.
Yeah.
That's trademarked there, black cherry, and I think that goes with that Jolly Rancher thing.
Yeah.
It'll alternate between either chocolate or cacao.
I was going to say black olive.
Yeah.
But something in that darker range as well. I just wanted to share some of the stuff that we've been doing today as we took, we selected, what was it, 5 barrels.
5 different barrel samples.
I got this idea that we ought to make some port around here. Everything in here is 10 years old or so. Some a little more, some a little less. And man, that's really port-like. That's,
It's gonna be a great starter batch. You know, it's just like you're making sourdough. Kind of have that starter
well,
batch.
explain how you want to do the Solera system on this so that it stays consistent.
What I want to do is actually do it in a Solera. And for those of you who don't know what a Solera is, it's a specific interpretation of barrel aging. So imagine you have 8 barrels. Okay, so we have 8 barrels right here. Use these. Okay, so those go all the way up to there. So imagine that's barrel number 1, and this is barrel number 8. You would only ever bottle out of barrel number 8. Barrel number 8. And you would only bottle about that much at a time. So now you've bottled this much and it's this low.
So you can't have that headspace there.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to take something from this barrel, put in that barrel, and now this one has the same headspace. Then you're gonna go to this one, fill that one, and then you're gonna fill this one from that one, and so on and so on, until you get back to your original barrel. And then you have to have wines appropriate for what you're trying to make, ready and prepared to go into that barrel. So if you think about it and you only bottle maybe 3 times a year, only this much out of a barrel, by the time any wine from this barrel gets to that barrel, it's woven its way through this whole system and everything stays very consistent. And that's the thing with port or sherry, and they're both made the same way, is to work its way through slowly so you have that consistency. Anyway, that's what we're wanting to start. And of course in Texas we can't call it port. We can say it's a port-like thing. We have to call it portejas.
Well, tell them about how you invented that name and gave it away.
When the US and the EU made agreements on a whole range of things, one of them was port, sherry, champagne, yes. So there were, and then other things outside of alcohol. But
Roquefort cheese.
What was it, 1983, if you were doing this before 83, you grandfathered in?
Right.
Like Gruet and Albuquerque can still call their product champagne.
Or Corbel.
Yeah, exactly.
Because their grandfather.
Yeah, their grandfather in. But anyway,
Andre.
had to come up with some new word. We can't say port. We can't say sherry. So we were tasked as a board, the Twigga board, and anyone who cared, to come up with an alternative name for port. And I'd been kind of rolling it around in my head, you know, for several weeks, and I was working in the winery, and it just kind of was just like port, we're Texas. What would a port from Texas be? Port from Texas, port, and it just went Portejas. And so then,
the old Spanish name.
Yeah, and so I gave it to Twigga, Texas Wine and Grape Growers Association, which, hello everyone. And so anyone who makes a port and chooses to can, and we trademarked it, Twigga trademarked it, and anyone who chooses to make a port and would like to call it Portejas has to license it through Twigga, and Twigga makes a little bit off each case, which helps Twigga immensely. You guys should all be joined as friends of Twigga. We could use the help. It's like, I think, $30 a year, not that much. But anyway, that's where Portejas came from, and it helps Twigga make a little bit of extra cash.
There you go.
That's what makes it.
No,
you can't define
it's
wine
good
like music.
I'm going to mediate this later, but we have to go right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Wine Talk Wednesday. Cheers!
We have to do first the cheers.
And the toast is, it's good to be crazy.
And not get caught.
Bye.